Hi all, my name is Erwin Lassoy. I am the PBN Program Manager in ICAO, and first of all I would like to apologize. I cannot be with you on the 17th of December. I think it's a result of bad planning on our side. Actually, as I'm talking now to you, I'll probably be on a plane somewhere between Beijing and Russia. So, what are we going to talk about today? Would like to give you a PBN update, the global update on PBN, so that can help you in your deliberations during your meeting. So, what are we going to discuss? We will have an outline here for you. We will discuss the current status, which will include the implementation overview, documentation that we have in ICAO, the flight procedure program, of course. We have two flight procedure programs at this stage. We talk about the education, the training, the Go teams, and the endorsements. Also, we'd like to tell you something about our future initiative, so you can plan on that, to get some background on that, which will be very important as well for your planning. And then, of course, we round off with a summary. In total, we'll have 24 slides, so there we go. Let's discuss first on how we're doing with our implementation. On a global level, we see a very good progress. It's going up. Our recent data is from this year until July, and we see in every segment we see a progress. From LNAV, for the LNAV VNAV, for vertical guidance, for LPV, and also RMP AR. So let's focus on the Asia Pacific region where you're all in. We see the same trend. Of course, you won't see the LPV because you don't have augmented SBAS in there. But you see that there's a very good progress. From the 2008 date where we started PBN with the assembly resolutions, we had about, in Asia Pacific, around 60 procedures, and we now are at about 220 procedures, which is a very good progress. But we are not there. Yeah, there's still a lot of procedures to be done. We have an estimate that we are now have an implementation around 50%. So that's good, but not good enough. And as you know, the assembly resolution calls for 2016 to have 100% implementation. So a lot of work to do. So what are we doing from our side, from the headquarters? PBN focuses on many different areas. First of all, we'll support the flight procedure offices, as you can see on the top and on the little B. We provide the training, formal courses, classroom courses, but also CBT. We continue with our standardization. We update our documentation on different areas, separation, ops, procedure design, and we will be doing it for quite a while. In this context, of course, we stay aligned with the SBU concept, as you all know what that is, the ICAO SBU concept, according to the Global Navigation Plan. And in order to support all that, we are working a lot in briefing all new elements of ICAO implementation through PBN symposia, workshops, guidance, Go teams, and so on. And we would like to go now through all of these type of activities to give you a bit of an idea of what we are all doing. So to start off with our bread and butter in ICAO, which is our documentation, we can say now that for PBN we have now a complete documentation overview. All documentation for PBN is there. Of course, we can add a few more and more guidance material to get a better implementation, but in principle we do have all the material. So we have the procedure design requirements in advanced ops. We have a new PBN manual, as you know, which includes now the new requirements for RMP2, advanced RMP, and RMP.3. RMPR procedure design manual. We have the ops approval manual. So your regulators among you really won't have any excuse now for the implementation and the approval of the airlines. So we have all the guidance material, the job aids, how you have to do the approval for the airlines is all there. Continuous airspace design manual, CDO manual, CCO manual, etc. You name it. So we have in principle all the documentations that you need, and of course these are all available on the ICAO site. And Nopadal, who is with you, can really guide you how to get that all that information. So. As you are the flight procedure program, I first like to give you some information regarding PBN on flight procedures. So what has recently happened on the flight procedure domain site, we just went through a final review with the AAC, and they approved all the new criteria for flight procedure design. So what does it mean? The first thing is that they approved the new charting requirements for PBN. So from now on, all the RNAV charts, the titles RNAV will be RMP in the future. Yeah, of course there will be an implementation transition, but all the charts will be RMP. And the reason for that is that now all the terminology in ICAO on PBN will be all consistent. There was a lot of confusion in the regions everywhere around the world. What is RNAV, what is RMP? And as you know, the difference between RNAV and RMP in PBN is fundamental. So when the approach is RMP, and you know that all approaches for PBN are RMP, NASPAC, they are now called RMP. So there's no confusion anymore. Is it RNAV? Do I need onboard performance monitoring and alerting, or don't I need onboard performance monitoring and alerting? Everything is clear. Of course, we will still have the issue in the avionics on board the aircraft. They cannot change as fast, but we already got very promising answers from the industry responses on our recently approved requirements, that they also rapidly are seeking to change the avionics on board the aircraft to represent RMP. Of course, there will be a transition, and there will be a different nomenclature for a while, and how to deal with that. We are going to provide a circular how you should do the transition of this new concept, and that circular will be ready by January next year. So that's next month actually. What else was done? We have new flight procedures for the NASPACs, RMP2 for en route and continental and oceanic. We have new procedures for advanced RMP. We have procedures for RMP.3, mainly for helicopters. And we have the new procedures for RMP approach for SBAS, which is actually less relevant for you because you won't have SBAS in your region. But just for your information, it's all there now, and for your operators, of course, which going outside the Asia Pacific region. What else is there? Is now a new Barrow-VNAV criteria. You know that Barrow-VNAV is one of the spines in the whole Assembly Resolution 3711, which calls for all vertical guided operations by 2016. We have noticed that the current requirements for Barrow-VNAV are quite difficult for implementation, difficult to understand, they are quite complex. But you should know that these criteria were developed at that time as an early stage. But we had the first experience with that. And now after some experience, we can say now that we can make it more easy to understand. It will be less complex and be aligned with other procedures. So it will be more easy to implement. We'll have new SBAS and GBAS requirements. We have now SBAS category 1 requirements. And we will also have for helicopter operators, we have all the helicopter procedure design requirements available. We will seek for the applicability date of all these new requirements in November 2014. That doesn't mean that you sit still now. You know it's approved by the Commission. It will be approved by and adopted by the Council early next year. So you can start planning on that so that you have a head start on the implementation. Okay, so far the flight procedures. I want to continue now on our other focus. That's the flight procedure program. We now have two flight procedure offices. Of course, one is very familiar to you, is Beijing, China, where you are now, which is now embedded in the regional sub office. I won't go in any detail to that office, as you know very much more than I do about this office. But I will tell you a little bit more about our sister office, which is now opened in Dakar in Senegal, and it was established this year. We're still in the startup process, and what we foresee is that in March we will have a special implementation project where we give the office a lot of support in how to set up the office. And what we try to do is to actually create a similar process, a similar structure as that you have with the steering committee. And we will invite Nopodol, who is among you now, to come to this activity during the startup process. So, and we hope that by next year, then, as of March, we will have an office that is operational and operating in the same way. And we hope that you guys in the region will be able to help the African office as well, and to coordinate all the activities. So, other activities, computer-based learning. We see this as a very important activity. Training in itself is very important, as you know. We do have formal courses. The disadvantage of these courses, classroom courses, is that it's difficult to attend. It's quite expensive, not only for us to organize, but also for you to attend. There's cost involved, travel involved, etc. So we are more and more focusing on computer-based learning. And what we do now we have three sets of computer-based learning activities. We have the PBN overview course, which is divided in two modules, giving you a good overview of what PBN is. It's good for people who have never been in touch with PBN, but it's also good for executives that want to know actually what's going on in PBN, what are the benefits of PBN. Then we have the operational approval course, which is, of course, as the name says, for the aircraft approval, and is more designated for ops inspectors and airlines how to approve aircraft to operate on PBN routes. And the third one is dealing with airspace design. How do you do an airspace design based on PBN? Formal training courses, we do have them as well. It's the operational approval course and the airspace design course, or airspace concept course. Currently they are embedded in our GoTeam visits. We provide them only in that venue. But we foresee that in the future we will have separate courses for operational approvals and airspace concept, and provide them around the world. Then, to provide you a good overview on what PBN can give you, we developed the PBN iKit. I believe I already explained to you last year on that. Just give you a quick overview on what the purpose is of this iKit and what it contains. The iKit provides the main stakeholders with the essential information, as well links to practical information documentation. And the reason is, of course, PBN is so widespread. It's not just one domain, it's various domains. And what we did is just to categorize all the different information so it's easy for you to find. So we have information for executives, we have information for airspace designers, for ops approval, for flight procedure designers, for industry. So it is very neatly categorized, and you can find your information in an easy way. And all this information, again, is on our PBN website, as well as our computer-based training courses I just mentioned. I forgot to mention that. but you can find on our PBN website, and Nopodal again can guide you where exactly is the location. Okay, now let's continue on our PBN Go teams. We have quite a success with that. Wherever we go now is when we go there, we see a lot of some resistance with people on PBN. They don't understand the need, but when we leave, they are the cheerleaders, and that is a good sign of success. We have changed the nature of the Go teams quite a bit in the past few years. The first Go teams were more related to a specific state, a champion state, that we would give some more education, more hands and feet, so that they could help other states in the regions. Now we are focusing more on a training activity for the per region, which includes ops approval and airspace design. And in the past year, we've been to different areas in the world. We went to Miami, we went to Johannesburg, we went to Bangkok very recently, and the next one is heading for the UAE in January. And also, as you will be pleased to note, is that the last one that we have in the series is planned for China in June, but it's not 100% agreed yet, so it's still TBD, so it can be a little bit later as well. I mentioned that this will be the last one in the context of free Go teams. We don't charge any cost to states to any of our presentations and any of our Go teams. What we see is, ICAO, this is part of our rollout activity to support our documentation for the implementation. But we think now that after doing this a few years, we did a lot of rollout now, and states are having the tools there. So our future initiatives will probably be at some cost. So we will be continuing the Go team visits in the future. We do training courses. We will do airspace design courses in the future after the Go teams, but that will be at cost for implementation support. Okay, another activity that we are undertaking are endorsements, and then endorsements are for flight procedure design companies, for commercial companies. And the reason why we do it is as follows. What we see is that more and more regulators in the regions around the world cannot do the procedure design themselves. They don't have enough resources, and what they do is either they rely on the ANSP in their country, or they hire third-party procedure design companies. These procedure design companies are not really regulated. It's not really clear what their expertise should be, how they should be, what they should know, what the training requirements are, etc. And as the regulators also don't have the right expertise to select these kind of companies, we as ICAO thought it would be necessary to actually set a quality stamp on the companies. So what we do, we select a number of criteria for what the minimum requirements are for a good company. What you should know about flight procedure design. What are the minimum criteria? When a company is interested in getting an endorsement by ICAO, so it is a voluntary endorsement, of course, they can approach ICAO, and we will then review the documentation, and based on the review we give them an endorsement or not. And with that endorsement there will be more trust by the regulator whether this company actually can fulfill the necessary requirements. So far we have given 6 different endorsements, and there's one more in the pipeline. Future initiatives on our new documentation. First, I would like to give you the activities on the PBN study group. There are different groups working on PBN activities, but the PBN study group is, let's say, the mother of all the new requirements. They came up with the PBN concept, as you probably know, and they will continue with the new PBN requirements. So they will continue with the advanced RMP guidance material. As you know, advanced RMP is quite complicated NASPAC. It's maybe more difficult to implement in the other NASPACs, and we think that some guidance material is appropriate. Then they will continue looking into developing requirements on mixed mode operations. There will never be in the airspace, or at least for the forthcoming future, an airspace where you only have PBN implementations. You will have PBN and you will have conventional implementation. So how do you deal with that as a state? So there is a need for guidance on that. Another one is to make recommendations for consolidated NASPACs. We started with a lot of new NASPACs and we continued on new NASPACs. Yeah? And now we have actually too many NASPACs. Yeah? The current NASPACs are based on the older regional NASPACs from the US and the Europe, and that's what's consolidated now. What we try to do now is to review all those NASPACs and actually what is necessary. So we did the consolidation first, and now we see, okay, now we have a worldwide harmonization, and which ones are actually beneficial for us and which ones are maybe less beneficial, and maybe we can delete one or two NASPACs. So it will be easier for the states to select, because we see, for example, RNF2 is not really implemented in the world, and it may be a candidate for that we remove this NASPAC, but that still has to be reviewed. We do have RMP-AR approaches. That's for mostly for airports that are difficult to access, mountainous terrain. And what we see is that while you have a difficult access, you also have a difficulty to get out of this airport. So we need to have also criteria for RMP-AR departures, and that's what they're going to develop. With the new NASPACs, there's a shortfall on the flight plan. The flight plan is now adopted or approved, I should say, in PANS ATM contains all the older NASPACs, all the flight plan requirements, but the new NASPACs are not there. And we're not going to change PANS ATM for that in the near future for the new NASPACs. We are also going for a new requirement, FFIs, as you may know. But for the meantime, there's a need for flight planning on the new NASPACs. And what we envisage is that it should be going through the regional subs. But we don't want each region to do it on their own. And we would like to provide a harmonized proposal that can then be implemented into the regional subs for the meantime, until we get a new requirement on FFIs, and then we will have a globally harmonized principle. We will also focus more on the general aviation. As you know, the specs are heavily concentrated on the commercial air transport type of operations, Annex 6 Part 1 type of operations. But we have a little bit slightly different requirement for general aviation. There is already requirements on that in the OPS approval document, Doc 9997. But it only addresses tiny part on GA, and we would like to devote a little bit more chapters, more content on the GA, how you approve GA, because we foresee that it should be a much more simplified process, and we don't want it to be overly complicated for the GA. Of course, other activities will be are unforeseen. They will continue to update the Doc 9613, and that's it. So that's a study group. But as I say, it's a multidisciplinary effort. Other activities are with respect to the procedure design. They continue on the advanced RMP guidance, RMP holding, RMPR departures, the transition to ILS. It's important that we have a connection from an RMP procedure to a conventional procedure, and ILS is still the main type of approach operation, so it's important that we have the proper transitions. Especially with RF to ILS, RF, radius to fixed legs. We will concentrate on RNF visual type of operations. This can be very beneficial in those states, those conditions when we are not under IFR. As you know, all the procedures currently for PBN are designed under IFR operations, so you have to deal with all the unexpected. The pilot cannot see the ground. Yeah? So there's a lot of conservatism in the procedures that may be leading to unnecessary long type of operations, long turns, long operations in the terminal airspace, which you can heavily reduce when you are visual. Yeah, so we foresee that we can develop RNF or RMP procedures for visual type of operations and can reduce the length of the flight path. We continue on GBS CAT 2 and 3 as well. That may be 2016 or that maybe even get in 2018. That's not 100% sure yet. Offset barrel VNAV, and I won't go into the details on that. We're looking at advanced PBN uses for FRT, fixed radius transitions. That's the same as radius to fixed legs, but then for the en route segments. RTA, required time of arrival for 2018, that is planned, so that is going into 4D type of navigation. And we will have more helicopter PBN applications for SBAS. The future initiatives on the separation requirements, the SASP panel is responsible for that, as you know. For 2014, the preliminary review by the Commission is just done, and the state letter is out now, I believe. It will contain the parallel and converging separation minima for RMP2, 4, and RNF10, and will reduce the separation minima for RMP approach, RMP AR, and RMP1 from 7 miles to 5 nautical miles. So that's a big change. For 2016, we will see improved separation requirements, both longitudinal and lateral, for RMP2, and also the introduction of separation requirements for advanced RMP. We will have reduced divergence for parallel departures. Yeah, so for when you have simultaneous departures, we have a requirement now that at least 15 degrees display should be there, which has an impact on the airspace. Yeah, so you will have need a larger airspace, and it's difficult for the operation. So we will seek for a smaller divergence, see whether it's possible in a safe manner. And also we will create separation minima for independent parallel operations for PBN, and that will include the advanced RMP approach, and RMPAR. On the upside, we will seek for simplification of ops approval. As you know, we now need a separate operational approval for PBN, and that's because PBN is not part of the basic training. PBN is so new that the basic training when you become a pilot, PBN is still not contained, and that we want to change, of course. So we want to make PBN part of the basic training requirements for pilots. So when they become a new pilot, PBN is part of it. Once you have that in place, there will be less onus on the ops approval, so that will be easier to do. And they also were looking at RNF type of operations on conventional procedures. So, on the future initiatives regarding our reports, there will be a new reporting requirement for on air navigation. It's not just PBN; it's on all efficiency and capacity activities in ICAO will be reported, and the first report will come out in April 2014. Of course, there will be also PBN activities in there, so you can read in the future on all the aspects on what ICAO is doing on PBN in the navigation report, starting in April next year. Interesting areas, there will be some success stories that you can learn from. We don't look at the more advanced airspace all the time. For example, in the upcoming navigation report, we will have simple success stories, but they can mean a lot to many states. For example, we look at the success story in South Africa, in a very small village where they had very poor approaches, conventional approaches, and as a result, the airport was almost closed. It was very difficult to access. And because the airport was not really functional, also the activities, because the village was quite remote, the economic activities were very low. Now, due to PBN, of course, the accessibility became very higher. It's very easy to access. We attracted much more operators, and as a result, the economy went up tremendously. It was very good for that village. So you see that PBN doesn't have just an aviation component. It's more safe and more efficient for the operation, but it really can help economies in emerging areas of the world. Yeah. So that is a good example of what PBN can do for the world. Other initiatives, symposiums. We think that symposiums are still a very important aspect for PBN implementation support. As you know, we had the symposium in 2012 here in Montreal, very successful. I think a lot of people gained a lot of information, that's number one, but also we got a lot of information because we asked for feedback, and we got a lot of feedback, and as a result we are now implementing that feedback into our current activities. So we're learning from you, and we hope that we give a lot of information to you as well. So we want to continue that, but not only here in ICAO, here in my headquarters, but we want to go into the regions. Well, I understand that there's already plans in progress for an early 2015 symposium in the region. There have been talks with the Bangkok office, and I believe you know Padal also know about that. So a big symposium is coming into your area in 2015. Data collection. Data collection is very important, not only to provide reports and to see how implementation goes, but also to see, to get information to support our new criteria. Yeah? Because we have to base our criteria on the right data, improve data, and then we can get more efficiency out of it. So it's important that you as a region continue to provide us the information. Information we get from two different areas, from you and from industry. Nopodol knows exactly which information we are requesting. It's also on our site where you can find that, and it's important that the region continues to support us with that. For your information, you know that we have a lot of data on terminal airspace, approaches, departures, arrivals, but we will now have a new MOU with Jeppesen to also get the en route information. So we will have, for your benefit, we will soon have all the information on PBN routes where they are implemented as well in our database. So you can look into that and see where you need to do some more activity and do more implementation. Computer-based learning, I mentioned that we already have 3 different courses on computer-based, but we not sitting still here. We want to continue for for other segments in PBN. So our focus is now on getting computer-based training for traffic controllers, some initial training, and for pilots as well, for the pilot training, which then can be incorporated into the in their airline training as well. Similar to the PBN for pilots, we also want to do it for the dispatchers. So there will be 3 new categories of computer-based training. So I hope I gave you a lot of information that you can use, and the advantage of a video is you can wind it back again. If I wasn't clear enough, you can hear me again. But I will give you a summary in case you don't want to rewind the whole thing. So in summary, we can say that we have a good implementation momentum of PBN all around the world. You saw the diagrams, it's going up, but we are not there. We're around 60%, and we should have been now around 70%. So we are a little bit slow, but what we hope is now that with this information and with all your activities in the region, with your office, that we really can speed up this momentum and be on target for 2016. There's no excuse to say, well, we cannot implement because there's no documentation. We have all the documentation now. All the guidance material is there. If there are any questions on documentations and you don't know where it is situated, you know where you can find us through Nopodal. Nopodal probably can help you directly, and if Nopodal doesn't know, he knows where to find me. New procedure design criteria we have, it's all done. So I know Hong Kong is interested in advanced RMP. It's there now, so you can start designing the procedures. It's all there. We have the online courses for 2014. It's all coming up. The Go teams will continue till June. China will be the last one that we will do, the forecast at least, and then from there on we will do it on a cost recovery basis. There's a need for additional data from the regions. We will provide data as well. We now will have the en route data coming up, and we hope that it will help you with the implementation. And we'll continue with the symposia, and I'm really looking forward to work with you, especially in your region for the 2015 symposium, and I think that will really help you. Okay, so I'm here at the end of my presentation. I wish you a very good meeting and a lot of success is the implementation of PBN in the Flight Procedure Office. And I wish you a Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and prosperous New Year, and see you then. Bye-bye.